Hello devs, welcome back. This is section 3 and I hope you're very excited for this video. Today in this video, finally we are going to create the list and fetch the data from the server. We are going to see how to use FlatList. We are going to add task. We are going to remove the task. Also, we are going to learn the cloud functions which we required on the backend. So, if you're excited, let's learn. Okay guys, so before starting working on the remaining part, let's recap what we have done so far. Okay, if you can see this app, we have this add task form, right? And if I add any task here, it should add and show a message that our task is added. In case of any error, it should show that error, correct? So let's try. Okay, so definitely there is an error. Our server is not yet connected, and the error is also automatically removed after 5 seconds. So I hope you remember that we have add that functionality in that, right? If you want, you can increase that functionality as well. But for now, let's go back to our command line and start ngrok, because right now our local server is not able to connect with app, or we can say our app is not able to connect with our local server. So I will use ngrok http. Okay, let me check our server is running or not. Okay, so server is not running. So let's start it with bun run watch and enter. It's going to start nodemon. So basically we are running our server on using node only, right? Because bun right now not support parse to run. Okay, that's why we are using nodemon to run our app. But bun is providing us that environment variable which allow us to connect our environmental variables with that .env file. Okay, so we don't have to add any extra package in the server. That's why I'm using bun right now. Okay, so our server is started now. Okay, and if we try again, going back to our emulator and test and test. Okay, our local server is running, but still it is not able to connect. Okay, so let's start our ngrok. Let's do ngrok http, then http // localhost 1337. Okay, and enter. Now it is running. It gave us a new URL. Let's copy that and let's go back to our code editor. And here we can select this, remove this, and then just paste the new URL. And now save. Let's try to add a new task. Okay, and enter. Okay, task added successfully. So now our app is successfully connected with our server. Fine. So that's the recap. Now let's go to our task list and see what we are going to do today. If you can see, we already completed these many tasks. So today we are going to create task list in the home screen, right? And also we need to create a cloud function which will fetch the task of that particular user. Okay, so let's move to Figma and check the design. So there is our home screen design, and you can see the bottom tab navigation. When user will click on home icon, we have to show the home screen, and I think we already did this last time. Now we have to fetch these tasks and show it on the home screen, right? And this card will have the task name, the task description, and the date when the task is created, and a remove icon. Okay, so that is what we are going to create. Now let's move to our code editor. Okay, and let me close all the unwanted tabs and go to our home screen. So here we have screens folder, and inside there we have a folder home, and here we have our file. Okay, so right now on the home screen we don't have much. We have a logout button, and I think we need to move it to the profile page. Okay, so let's do that quickly and make some space for our new code. Okay, so what I will do, I will quickly grab all these things. Okay, with styles as well. Okay, let's copy this completely and go to profile folder, and here let's remove this completely, paste it, and let's change the name, file screen. Okay, and let's save this. Let's check if the changes are moved. Okay, so now our profile screen have that button, logout button, and the username. So let's try to log out. Okay, so we are able to log out. Let's log in again with the same username, Himanshu. I don't remember the password. Maybe ABCD1 2 3 4. Yes. Okay. So let's go to home page, home, and let's clear up this code because we are not going to need this now. And here I will just remove these things. Let's say home screen again. Okay. Container, we right now we don't know what style we are going to need. So I'm just going to clear up everything. Okay, so we have a plain canvas to start with. Let's go back to Figma quickly. And if you can see, the card is similar, right? So we can create a reusable component, and it's going to render this card multiple times, as many tasks as user will have. Okay, so let's go back and create a reusable component for this card. So when we are thinking about components, then we have to go to component folder and create a new folder. Let's think of a good name for this component. Maybe task card component. Okay. And inside that, we are going to create an index file. Okay. And let's use our shortcut with style. and let's name this card component. Okay, let's save this. Let's quickly import it in home. For that, let me export it from the components folder. And I forgot to export it by its name. We are not going to default export it. Okay, so I'm going to remove this line. Fine. Now let's go back to our components index file. And from here, we are going to export it, right? Okay. And now let's copy this from here, go to our home screen, and let's add it over here. Self close it by this forward slash and save it. So I need to import it by using control space. It's going to show me this helper and I will enter, and it is imported from our components, right? You can see the text from that component. So now let's start styling this card component. So first of all, let's add the content of this card, like title, and then Control Shift D to duplicate it, and description. After that, we will have date, and after that we will have a icon, right? And for that icon, let's search it on the browser. And if you remember, we use expo icons, and here I particularly like the feather icons. So I will click here, and let's try to find something like a trash icon. Okay. Okay. So this one looks much better. So I will click over here and I will copy this first. Let's go back to the code editor, paste it, feather, and let's go back to the browser again. Copy this code editor, and after the date, we are going to paste it and save it. Okay, so everything is lined up, and now we are going to style it and put it in its right place. Okay, so let's start with the view, and here we will styles dot container, and then here I'll just copy this again. What I'm doing is just naming our style components here, and then we are going to use it at the bottom. Here I will say title. Here I'm going to say description. Then we will have date, and icon. For now, I think just change the color to red. We will try to find a better color for this. Or red also looks fine. Okay, so let's go to the style sheet dot create. Let's create our style object. So let's say container. So if you see the Figma, let's check the design once again. You can see we have a border, but I think we will not use a thick border, but a very thin border, and we will put some shadow behind the card. Okay, and we will have the task name and the description, and we will have the date like this. Okay, so let's do that. So first of all, let's create the border. Border width 1. Okay, let's say black for now, or gray. Okay, so border is created. Let's add some padding. So always remember, padding give us the space from inside the box. Okay, padding to 4 and save. Okay, so you can see we have some space from inside. Let's put it 6 or maybe 8. Let's try. Okay, and now let's add margin, maybe 10. Let's add 10. Okay, now you can see the margin always gives space from the outside of the box. So if you know the box model, we have content. So this is our content, and then we will have padding. So this is a invisible layer of padding inside. After that, we will have border, and after that we will have invisible space of margin. Okay, so whenever you want to give space from inside the box, means between your border and content, you should use padding, and whenever you want some space outside your box, at the time you use margin. And when you're not using any top or bottom, and you're just using padding or margin, that means it's going to apply that space from all the sides. Okay, so just in case you don't know about box model, I just try to explain it in short. So next, if we go back to our Figma design, you can see our date and our trash icon is in one line. Let's go back to our code editor, and to bring this content in one line, I'm going to use a box, and for that I'm going to use view. Let's move this here. Okay, and now let's name this. Let's give it a style. Style equals to, let's say, let's call it subcontainer. Subcontainer. Let's copy this and paste it over here. Put the comma. So to bring our date and the icon in a line, we are going to use flex direction to row. Okay, because by default our content on the screen always stack in a column, and we have to use flex direction to bring that content in a row. So once I save this, you can see it is showing in a line. Okay, now let's make some space between, and for that we are going to use justify content, and we have center, flex, and flex start, space around, space between. and we are going to use space between. Okay, and let's save this. And now you can see the space between our date and our trash icon. Okay, we also have align items. Okay, and here we have different like baseline, center, flex start, flex end, and stretch. So I'm going to use baseline, and let's save this. Now you can see our date is aligned its baseline with the trash icon. Okay, now let's go to React Native Paper, our styling library in the browser. And here, let's go to text, and we have different kind of text. I think for title, we are going to use headline medium. Okay, so variant, we have to use this. Okay, here title, we are going to use variant headline medium, and there is no effect because we forgot to import React Native Paper. Okay, so I'm going to import text. So I have to remove the text from React Native because we are going to use it from React Native Paper, and save this. And now you can see our text is bigger. Now let's go to description, and for description, what we are going to use, maybe body medium. Okay, and description, we are going to use body medium. Let's save this. Okay, so we got the style. And now finally for date, and for date, I think we are going to use variant label small. Okay, and let's copy that, it over here, save it. Okay, so I think it's perfect. Let's give date some color, and I want to give it a very light gray, and for that I'm going to use color and gray. Okay, let's go to the browser and search for some light gray color, which will be more suitable for our borders and the background and the date. Okay, so I will go to my browser and let's search for colors palette, and I think let's use this EEE. Let's try that. We have to add hash whenever we are going to use hexa colors. I think that's really very light. Let's try to give our background color to white. Save this. Okay, so now we can see the date, but still I think it is very light. So let's go back and try to search little bit darker color. I think this will be perfect. Let's go back. PPP. Let's save. And now I think it is perfect. So before that it was EEE, and I think for our border color, that color was perfect. So let's use hash EEE, EEE, E, and let's save it. Okay, so we have a very light border color for our cards. Okay, and let's give it some border radius. I think 4 will be good enough. And let's save this. And you can see a very light curve on our corners of the card. Let's try with 6. And I think 6 is perfect. I like 6. Okay, so our card is ready. And for icon, I think let's try with 21. Icon size, let's try 18. I don't want this much big icon. Okay. And also, I think we need a button kind of thing, a icon button for. So I remember that we have a icon button in React Native paper. So quickly go back there and search for that. Okay, so I will go to React Native paper, icon button, icon button. Here we have, okay, outline like this and contained. So I think let's use contained one. So we have this icon, but if we use this icon, we will not able to use our feather icon. Okay, so let's try this. And if we find a good trash icon inside material icon list, then we are going to use that. For now, let's try it. Okay, let's import the icon button from the native paper. I also imported the colors provided by React Native paper. Let's try to save this. Okay, so we have this icon button over here. And because we are using space between, we have space between these 3 icons. Okay, and you can see this is looking much better. So we need to find this icon. Here, let's go back over here. We are not able to use feather, but we can use material icon. And here we will try to search something like maybe trash. Okay, so we also have a trash can outline, and I think this is perfect. So I just need the name, which I can also copy from the URL. So I'm going to copy that, and in place of camera, I'm going to use trash can outline, save it. Now we don't need this feather icon. Let's remove it. Let's remove it from here as well. And now save. Okay. And now it is looking perfect. Okay, we have some more space from here because you can see we have this icon surrounded by a this invisible button. Okay, fine. So our card is ready now. Okay, now it's time to fetch the task from our server and show it over here. Okay, and we are going to do that next. But before that, I also want to add some shadow for this card. And for that, let's go back to the browser. and we will search React Native Shadow Generator. Okay, and let's check this. For Android, I don't need this much, but a very little shadow, and I think this is perfect. So let's copy this and go back to the code editor. And in container, let's add that shadow. Okay, and let me save this, and you can see there is a light shadow around our card, and it is looking beautiful now. Okay, so that's it with the design. Now let's try to fetch the content from our server. Now let's check the task we have in hand. And I think I named this task wrong. Create a task list, but let's call it create a task card in HomeScreen, which we did. Okay. Now we are going to create a cloud function to fetch the user task. And after that, we are going to create a task list and show the user task. Okay. So let's call it completed because we created the task card. Okay. Now it's time to create a cloud function which allow us to fetch the task of a particular user. So let's go to server. Okay. And here we have a cloud function which we created last time to add a task. Now in the same folder, task function folder, here we will create a new function file and we will name it fetch task.js. Okay, and we are going to need some of the code similar to this. Okay, so I will just copy it from here. And okay, I made a mistake of creating a folder. So let me remove this. Let me quickly click on the file and fetch task.js. And here I will paste the code and let's name it fetch user tasks. Okay, and definitely we need this request.user because we need to know who is logged in and we need to just fetch the data of that particular user and send it to the client. Okay, and we are not going to get any params. We just need to fetch the task. And now how to query the Parse server so we can fetch our data. Okay, so let me go to the browser quickly. And here, let's open a new tab and search for server. Let's go to the site which is parseplatform.org, and here we'll go to the documentation for JavaScript and let's click on guide. Here we will click on objects. So objects and then queries, because we are going to use query to query our data. So here is an example of how to fetch some data. Okay, so basically we are going to initialize that subclass and then we are going to create a new query, and then we can say query dot equals to some player name and some player name, and then we will get the result by dot find, and here we are alerting that what is the result of dot length. Okay, and here we are doing the for loop and extracting the data by object.get of the player name. Okay, so let me copy this and I will explain you the code step by step in our code editor. Okay, so let's get back to the server side code editor, and here let me paste it here. Okay, and I will quickly copy this ESLint because right now it is showing unwanted red underlines. Okay, so basically we are going to need this task equals to extend. So we are going to extend the subtask and then we will get a new task. So but here we want to query our parse server. So here we have to use dot, sorry, not like this, new parse dot query, same as this example. So I will say task query, and here I need to pass the subclass which is task. Okay, so this is line number 1 and line number 2. I'm going to remove this. Now query dot equals to player name and the player value. Okay, so this will go inside the database. It will check the column of player name and it will search for this user, and after that it is going to display all the data which have player name Dan. Okay, so that's the trick. And here how we are going to get our data is, I will say task query, and task query dot equals to, we will need the user to check that what are the key and values we have in our server. We are going to use our parse dashboard. And if you remember last time I showed you, so let's go back to the command line, and from there we will try to run the parse dashboard. Okay, and so we have created that command and store it inside readme like this. So let me copy it. Okay, and let's go to the command line. And I will open a new command line using Ubuntu. And I will paste that command over here, parse dashboard dev. Okay, and enter. So it is saying parse dashboard is not available. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use npx install parse dashboard, npx parse dashboard, and let's say yes. Okay, so the error is that the port is already listening on 4040, and I know that our ngrok also use the same port. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cancel this and let's try to run bunx again. Now it is available. Now let's try to run ngrok. Okay, so now it is using 4041. Let's copy this and we need to update our app. So let's go to app.js, and here we need to replace this URL with a new one. Okay, otherwise it will not connect. So I will save this. Let's go back to the command line. And now it is running. So let's go to the browser. And here I will say localhost colon 4040, enter. And you can see our server is connected and it is also showing the server version. So let's click here. And now you can see we have tasks and we have multiple, total 9 tasks over here. And we have the key, or you can see the pointer of user, which we are going to use inside our cloud code. Okay, so let's go to the code editor. Let me close the readme file. And here task query equals to user, user. And here we are going to pass our user. Okay. And now we are going to do task query and we are going to do await. We will replace the query with task query. Task query dot find, and it's going to find all the tasks which is created by this particular user. And it's going to store that inside results. So I'm going to remove the alert from here. And right now we are looping the result. Okay. And it is storing the result inside the object const. And again, it is alerting it. So rather alerting, I will do console.log. Okay. And object ID, and we are going to get the, not the player name, but the task title. So let's quickly check the value. It is only title. Okay. So go here and I will say title. Now let's put it inside a try catch block. So we can catch the errors in case of any error. And we also going to return it. So I will just keep it here for now. And also we are going to throw some error. Okay, and let me remove this try catch block from here because we don't need that. And let's use this ESLint comment so we can avoid the unwanted error. It is showing some lines and we don't need that lines. Or now let's try to understand the code step by step. First, we are getting the user who is the logged in user and who is requesting this cloud function fetch user task. Okay, so we will get the logged in user from here. After that, we are going to get the instance of task subclass. Okay, so which is here. You can see the task. We have 9 tasks inside that, right? After that, we are going to query that particular subclass. Okay, and parse.query equals to task. And on this query, we can call some methods like dot equals to, and we need to pass the key and value. And the key is user and the value is the user, which we are getting from the client side. Okay. So this will know that, okay, we need to find all the tasks for this particular user. Okay. Here we are doing the find operation and it's going to store all those results inside results. And after that, we can go through each task and show our data as we want. Okay. Using object.get. Okay. And we are using title right now just for the example sake. But I want to pass an array of tasks to the client side. Okay. So rather than using a for loop, what I will do, I'm going to use results dot map, and here we will pass a callback and I will say item and it will return item dot get. So it should return an object. Okay. And let's call this title equals to item dot title, right? Description equals to item dot description. Sorry, it should be item dot get title, then item dot get description, and also we are going to need the date, right? So let's go back and see what is the key for the date. And here you can see the created at, which is the key for date, and this is updated at. So these two values are automatically created with the object ID. We are also going to need the object ID. Okay. So let's go to the code editor and here I will say created at or let's say date, and we will get the created at date, and also I will need ID. So let's put it at the top. ID equals to item.id. And once we created our data in the manner which we like, I will store this inside task list equals to, and we will store the array of the task inside the task list, and then we are going to stringify it message. Rather than message, I will say task list. Okay. And I need the same value which will be returned from here. And we are going to throw an error in case of any error. Okay. And I think hopefully our cloud function should work, and it's time to test our cloud function. Before that, let's export this, or I will say import it inside main.js. So let's go here and let me await import dot slash task function slash fetch task. Save it. Let's not forget to reload. So I will cancel this and run watch. It's going to reload our server. Now let's go back to our client side code editor, and we are going to use that function name. Okay. If you remember from our last video that whenever we want to interact with server, first of all, we need to create a slice. Okay. And we already created a task slice, which for now handling the creation of the task, and it is storing the data inside this state which we created, right? And this slice provide us with the reducer and the actions which we can use to fetch or store the data. Okay. And then we have this thunk where we actually write the functions which is going to approach our servers and ask for the specific data, right? So if you remember last time we created this function which is calling this cloud function. Similarly, we are going to create a new function, export const fetch task equals to create a sync function, and we get some help. And then we are going to use create a sync thunk. Then we need to name our thunk. So as here we have given the name task slash create, we are using the name task slash fetch task, or I will just say fetch. Okay. And after that, async. Right now, I don't think we are going to need any params, so I'm not going to provide any curly braces to destructure those params. And simply inside this arrow function, we are going to say const task list equals to await parse cloud dot run, and here we have to give fetch user task. Okay, just that. And hopefully this will provide us with the user task. And I will say I will say console.log task list, and this task will be inside. So this task we will get back will be stringified. So I'm going to use json.parse task list. Okay. So let's try this function. Okay. Let's copy this. And you know where we have to call this function from? Yes, it is from the home screen. Okay. And how we are going to do that? So somehow, whenever this screens load, it needs to go to our task thunk and run this parse cloud dot run function and call this particular cloud function, which will which will fetch all the tasks and it's going to console, right? So do you remember what we need to use when this particular screen is mounted? Yes. So we are going to need use effect. Okay. And use effect will run whenever our home screen is mount. And we want to fetch it once only. Okay. So I'm not using any dependency here. And I will paste it like fetch. And you remember, whenever we want to run any thunk function, we need to use dispatch, and then the function. Also, we need to import it. So it is imported, and we get the dispatch from use dispatch hook, right? Now save. Okay. Now let me reload it. Okay, use effect doesn't exist. So let me import it from React Native and save it. Now our home screen is loaded, right? So we must have the result inside our command line. So let's go back to the command line, and here we go. Here we have the task which is showing it is successful. This is the server console log. Okay, so let's check here. So here we have success and task list. So we have date, description, then we have ID and the title, right? Again, we have date, description, ID, and the title. Okay, so we successfully able to fetch our data from the server. Now we need to display this data to the user on the home screen. So for that, what we are going to do is we need to go to our task thunk, and we need to return this json.parse. Okay. And we will use this fetch task, and we will go inside task slice because we are storing our data inside the task slice. So we need to import it, fetch task, right? And we have to do the same. So let me copy this, duplicate it, and rather than creating task, I will say fetch task list. So again, it is pretty simple. First of all, we will change this to fetch task, fetch task, fetch task. So when we are fetching the data, at that time the status will be pending. So we will make our state is loading to true. So it's going to show us a activity indicator, and after that we will have fulfilled. So after we fetch the data, we are going to get the action.payload. Inside action, we get the payload, what we are returning from here, and we are returning the array of tasks, right? So that we will get inside action.payload. And we want to store that inside tasks. Okay. So go to fetch task list, and here in fulfillment, because now we get the data successfully, here we will store inside task. Okay. And in case of any rejection, we are going to store that array inside action.array.message. Hopefully now we are able to store our data inside the store, and we can use that to show the task list. Okay. So we are already doing that from the home screen. We are running the cloud code and we are fetching the data. Now data is stored inside the Redux store, and we can use that data. And to fetch the data, if you remember, we have a hook called use selector, and it's provide us with state, a callback, and here I will say state dot task, I guess. I don't remember. So let's go inside the store file, and here we have task. Okay, only task. So I will go back to the home, and rather than task, I will say task, and we are destructuring task from there. Once we get the task, let's console it over here and check if you are getting all the tasks. Save. Okay. And let's reload. And now let's go to the command line. So we have returned the data and it is stored inside our store like this. Okay. Initially the task was empty. After we fetch, we are storing the object actually, but we just want to store the task list, right? So let's go back to the code editor, and inside the task slice, while we are storing the action.payload, we need to do action.payload.task list. Okay. And now let's try to reload it again. Go to the command line. Okay. Now we have our task arrays of tasks inside our tasks. Okay. Great. Now we can use that. Let's go back to the home screen, and okay. So once we fetch the task and we store it in a store and get it inside home, we need to create a list, okay, using this particular component which we created, and throw that data inside this task card component. Okay, but it should be a list. So React Native provide us with a component, or I will say core component, called FlatList. Okay, so now we are going to learn how to use FlatList. So let's check the documentation of React Native. Let's go to the browser and search for React Native FlatList. Okay. So here is the data, and here we are using FlatList. we need to pass that data inside data prop of FlatList. After that, render the items, and we are getting the items and destructuring it and get the item, single item, and we are going to pass that inside a component which is showing the title we are getting from the data here, right? And after that, we also need a key extractor which is going to provide our list a key, so it will be uniquely added for each item. Okay, this is needed, otherwise we are going to get a warning. So let's copy this flat list from here and let me paste it inside our home screen. Okay, we are getting the data, so rather than data I will say task, because we are getting all the tasks from here. For item equals to item.id, and I guess we are getting that item.id already inside id, right? So this will work, we will keep it as it is. But here in items, we need to pass this task card component. Okay, so we have created an simple task card component. Now we need to make it reusable using the props. So if you remember our reusable component, how to create a reusable component, I have explained in my first video, right? So we will have title definitely, and we will have description equals to item dot description. After that, we will also have one date. Date equals to item dot date. And I think that's all the props we need right now to show our data. Okay. And you can see the flat list is kind of helping us by taking the data, extracting each item, and now we can use that item to create our card component, right? So we will have title, description, date. Okay, so let's go to the card component, and here we are going to destructure it, and I will say title, description, and date. Okay, and now here we will use those title, description, and date. Let's save this. Okay, there's some error. Flat list doesn't exist. Like always, I forgot to import the components. I'm so sorry for that. Let me import it. Okay, now let's save this. And here we go. We have the list of tasks which we fetch from our server. Okay, and I really like how it turns out. Okay, but there are few styling changes which we can do. Okay, and also you can see we have this date which is in ISO format, and we need to change that and get it in a human readable format. Okay, so let's do that next. So let's go to the task card, and here we are getting the state. Okay, and I will create a new function over here. Cons formatted date equals to, let's say, new date equals to new date, and let's pass that date over here. Now let's get the year, month, and date from this new date. Okay, and for that we can say cons date maybe equals to new date dot get date, fine, and month equals to get month, sorry, will be new date dot get month. And because the date starts from 0, we have to do +1, and then const year dot get full year. Now let's return a string, and I'm going to use the template string. I will say date month and year. Okay, let's copy this, and we already have this date over here. Okay, so we have some problem like this, I think. Okay, now save. Let's check. Now we have the date. Okay, now our month is looking little bit weird. I like to put a 0 before this. Okay, and for that we can use simple condition. If our date is less than 10, then date equals to, so first of all let me change it to let. Okay, so we will able to, okay, now date equals to, let's add a 0 before the date, and in case of our month, case our month is less than 10, then we are going to use month month. Save this. Okay, now it's looking much better, right? Okay, so this is how we can create our utility functions. Now move this function to a separate folder to keep our code cleaner. Okay, so I will cut it from here, and here we will pass the date. Okay, and in src we are going to create a new folder, and we will name it utils. So basically it is going to store all the utility functions for us, and format date.js, I will name it like this, and let's put this here, and I will pass the date here which we have, and let's export it. Okay, copy this, save this, and let's go to home, not home, task card component, and let's import it over here. Okay, so we imported the utility function. Let's save this, and here we go. Okay, so this way, these are the simple methods which you can use to keep the code cleaner. Okay, so we are able to fetch our data, show the dates and the task items, and there are some little bit of styling which we can improve, and I think we can do that later. Now let's try to add a new task and see if we are able to see that task in this list. Okay, so let's add a task, cook food. Today we are going to cook full meat. Okay, so just something. Okay, so task is added. Let's go to the home screen. And are we able to see that? It's not. But if we reload it, reload the app, okay, cook food. So this task is here. So we don't want our user to refresh their screen every time they add a new task, right? So what we can do? So what we can do is maybe when user add a task. So let's go to add task screen. So here, if you remember, if task status is success, at that time we are running this set timeout function, and after that we are running this clear message, right? From here, we can dispatch fetch task as well, okay, which is going to fetch the new task and store and update our store, right? So this is the way, one way I can say. There could be more different ways, but right now I feel like this is the good way to fetch the data whenever we have a success message, right? So let's dispatch dispatch fetch tasks, right? After we add a task. This way, we will able to see the updated task. Okay, so let's try that. Go to add task and let's say fetching after adding. Okay, let's create. Let's check. Here we go. Fetching after adding. So it is automatically updated. Okay, even so, once we add the task, we are able to fetch it. Okay, so that's great. As we are on the add task screen, we also have ease loading. So let's use that. And in button, we have a prop which is called ease loading, or okay, so it's loading and we can pass ease loading over here. Okay, and let's try again. Now we should see a activity loader on this button. Let's click. Okay, we have that for a small time and we are able to remove that. Let's go back to the home screen and yeah, we have this trying is loading. Okay, so here we go. We have successfully added the task and showing the task. Now, if you want, you can show that task at the top. So for that, what we can do, we will go back to the server editor. And here, when we are returning the task list, we can do something like task list dot reverse method. Okay, which should reverse the array for us. Okay, and after that we need to reload the server as well. So I will close this. Let's go back. Let's reload the app. And here we go. You can see now trying is loading on the top because we recently added this. And now if we go back and try to add a new task, go back to the home screen, and here we go, adding a new task. Okay, so it took a second to fetch the data, but we are here. But there is one more functionality which is remaining, and that is to remove the task. Okay, so we are able to add the task, showing that particular task in the list. Now it's time to remove the task when we click this button. So to remove the task, again, we have to create a cloud function. Okay, and we are going to create that on the server side. So let's move on the server code editor. And here we have add task, fetch task now. Remove task function.js. Okay, and let's copy this. Here, let's say remove task. We will definitely need the user. And also, we are going to need the object ID, which we will get from the params. Okay, so request.param, and here we will say maybe task ID. Okay, we'll get the task ID from the params. Now let's check the documentation of Parse server, how to remove a particular entry from the database using Parse. And where is our Parse server, Parse platform guide? Okay, so here we have different queries. I think we will able to find remove an object from here, I guess, destroying object. Okay, so here we have my object dot destroy, or we can use unset something. So we need to remove the entire object. Okay, not a single field as here it is showing, right? So we need to use object dot destroy. So here we don't have a proper complete example that how we need to grab that object and destroy it. If we go here in promises, we can see something like this where after saving the object, the object key, and then we have success and error. and we can give a callback. So after saving key, we can do something. Okay, if it is success, and if there is an error, we can do something if there is an error. Okay, so what I am assuming is we will first get the object, and then if we get the object successfully, we will try to run the destroy function on this. Okay, so let's try that. Let's go back to our code editor, remove function. So we have destroy. Let me quickly copy that promise example as well. Okay, and we will have this promise example. I will just comment it for the reference purpose. So first of all, we need to get that object, and we already have the ID, so it will be easier for us to get the object, right? So we will query that. So I'm just going to copy the same code over here. Okay, task query, and then now we can say like task query dot get, and here we will pass our task ID. Okay, and after that, according to this, we have provided the key, and after that we can pass an configuration object, and here we can say if there is a success, then here we will run our callback and we will get our object. So I will name it task. Okay, and once we get the task, we can say task dot destroy, and in case of error, in case that object is not available, we can throw error, and we will send the same error to the client. And we will need this disable comment to disable the unwanted ESLint errors. We will need this as well. Also, I like to return something from this function, and let's return a JSON.stringify message. Here we will return. Let's copy this other than a task list. We will send a message. Status success, and we will say task. Let's send the ID as well. So I will use the template string, and here I will send the message, and I'll say task. Let's say task dot get, And I think we are getting the task. So I just need to pass task dot title, and I will just put a double inverted comma over here. Successfully deleted. Okay. So right now we are not required the user. So I will just comment it. Now it's time to test this. And before that, let's import it in the main.js. Saved it. Let's go to command line. Let's restart this. So I will close it. Clear. Run watch. Okay. And it will take some time to reload. Let's close the unwanted tabs. Once our cloud function is ready, we create a thunk first, right? Because this thunk is going to call that cloud function. Okay. So I will say export const delete task sync. And here we will going to need the task ID. Let's say const, because we are going to get the status. Await. And parse cloud dot run. So I will remove this and I will say remove task over here, right? And once that is done, I will return the status, right? And once our thunk is ready, we need to import it in our slice, and we have a task slice already created. Delete task. Again, I'm going to copy this. Delete task. And in delete task, we are going to change these things. So when this task, when we will click the button, it will be pending. Once it is fulfilled, we need to update the status. Name for remove task as well, delete task as well. Okay. So we are going to store the status into task status of our state. So state dot task status equals to whatever the payload we are going to get. Okay, so this is ready. Now it's time to test. So delete task and we will go back to our home screen. Let me remove this console log because we don't need that right now. So we have this fetched. Let's say remove delete task as well here. And here we are going to create a function, and let's say handle remove task. And this function is going to get a task ID, and we are going to dispatch delete task, and we are going to pass the task ID. Okay. So if we go back to the task thunk, we don't need these curly braces because we are not sending an object, just a single value. But here we need that because we need to pass an object as a params. So we are going to pass this as a task ID. Okay. So with that, let's get back here. And we are going to dispatch it. And this is our function. We are going to pass it as a prop. And here I'll pass it as a prop. We can keep the same name, or we can just call it remove task. I think let's keep the same name. It will be much understandable. Okay. And now I'm going to get into this component. We can click Control and click on this component name, and we will be redirect inside that file. So that is a shortcut to jump from files, one file to another component file. Okay. Now here we are going to get that handle remove task. Okay. And now rather than passing a console.log pressed over here, we can say handle task, and now we are going to get the ID. So right now you can see we are not passing any ID over here. We are just sending title, description, and date. Okay. So if we want, what we can do is rather than sending these many prompts, we can simply remove all this, and we can say data equals to item, right? So we will get everything inside item with the ID as well. Okay. And now get back to the task component, task card component. Here we will get the data. Let's place the comma. And here we can say data dot title, data dot description, and we also have date, data dot date, and here we can say here we need to pass the ID, if you remember, data dot ID, and this way we will get everything in one prompt. Okay, and let's save this. Let's check if there is any problem in our app. So let me reload it. Okay, so everything is okay. You can see we are getting the title, date, and everything. And now we can click on this, and we should be able to remove this particular task. Okay, so the name of the task is adding a new task. Let me click it. Okay, so right now we don't know if it is successful or not. So let me check the server command line. So we will get some idea over there. And if we go here, you can see ran cloud function remove for user this, and this was the task ID. So we are successfully able to send the task ID, and result is undefined function tasks. remove param and user ID. So right now we don't know still. So let's go to the browser, or we can go back to the app and try to reload it, because right now we are not updating this list. Okay, so let's reload it. Okay, it seems like it is not successful. Okay, so let's try to troubleshoot it. Okay, so let's go to server code editor. So what I think is, the mistake I made is that we need to find this particular task first, and then we can get the object ID and we can remove it. Okay, so let's try that first. Okay, so I will say task query dot equals to object ID, task ID, right? And after that, we can say task find first. Okay, and let's store that into result equals to await. Okay, and then we will get this result. Use try catch, and here we will get the object. Now let's destroy that object using result dot destroy. Okay, and if it is successful, then we are going to return this. Let's put await as well. Okay, here I will say result dot get title. Okay, and in case of error, we are going to throw the error. Okay, let's remove this unwanted code. Okay, so let's copy this, and this is just a simple ESLint error, so we can ignore that by using this. Okay, let's save this, and now it's time to try test again. Okay, so let's go to our emulator, and I click on delete. Let's get back to the command line. Okay, I'm sorry. I forgot to reload it. Okay, so let me cancel this, clear this, run it. Okay, so server started. Get back to the emulator. Try to delete this. If we go back to the command line, now here you can see the result, which is successful, and successfully we are going to remove the task. So adding a new task which is removed, right? So that is successful, and now our task is deleted. It is, if we go back to the emulator, it is not reflecting here because we have not added that functionality to update our list after removal. So I will just reload it, and now you can see that task is not showing. So let's remove this cook food. Okay, remove, and let's try to reload. So that task is removed. Okay, now let's update the list once the task is deleted. Okay, how we can do that? So you already seen a lot that how we are adding, how we are removing, and also last time I shown you how we are updating the task after adding the task. So I want you to pause the video right here and try to update the list after deleting it. Try it yourself. Okay. If you want, you can go back and check that part where I have shown you how to update the list after adding a new task, just to check yourself that okay, you are getting the or understanding what we are learning here. Okay, just to test your learning. So if you already tried, that's well. Otherwise, you can follow along. Okay, so now if we go back to the home, after deleting the task, we are going to get a status of success in task status, right? If you remember. So let's go back in the slice. Here we have task status. Okay. And one more thing I will do. So there, from the server side, we are sending a success message rather than we say removed status. Okay. So that way we will able to differentiate that added successfully and removed successfully. Also for add task, we are saying success. Let's say added. Okay. So added and removed, or we can say created. Okay. So from server side, we have done it. Let's reload the server. Okay. Now let's go back to our code editor on the client side. Here, when we add the task, so add task, here we are saying status success. So now we will check created, right? Similarly, now at the home screen, when status equals to task status dot status is removed. Okay. If this is there, then we will try to reload this. Okay. I will add a question mark over here to remove this error. Now, when the status is removed, this should be refetch the task. Okay. So let's click and trying to load. Let's try to remove this. Successfully, we are able to remove the task, and uh, as soon as that status is changed and it is removed, task is removed. So that is great. Okay, let's remove this hello task as well. Now you can see when we are clicking this, there is no effect. Why? Because this is already removed once the task is updated, and it is not clearing itself. Okay, so what we can do is we can set a timeout to clear the task status. So whenever user clicks on remove task again, the status will be new, and we will able to see that, okay, the task is successfully removed. Okay, because we have removed multiple tasks, but still it is not updated. You can see if we reload, now this is the new list. If I click here, that is removed. Okay, but if I try to remove this test task 5, you can see it is not removed because the status is still removed, right? So we need to clear this status. So whenever user clicks again on the any new task, this status will change again and use effect will get updated that, okay, the status is changed. So it will refetch the task. Okay. So for that, what we can do, we can use set timeout, and here we can pass a callback with a time, and I will say 500 seconds. Okay. Now we need to clear that particular status, task status. We want to clear that. Okay. And as this is a local updation of the state, we need to create a action inside reducer, right? If you remember, in auth slice, we have create reducers to clean the error, auto login, and hide the splash screen. Okay, so these are the local state changes which required, and for that we create these reducers, and these reducers provide us with the actions with the same name which we need to export from here, like authSlice.actions. Okay, so I hope now you remember that what I'm talking about. So we need to create reducers here as well. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just copy one from here. So here we have this example of clear error. Let's say clear status, and we will use clear status task status equals to null. And I think that's enough for now. Let's export this as an action. So we don't have clear message. Do we have clear message? Okay, we have already this clear message. So I don't have to create a separate reducer. I'm very sorry about that. So I'm going to put it here. Remove this. Sorry. Now clear status. So we already have this clear status, clear message, right? So we are getting this task status from here. We can use this. We don't need a new action. And now I will go back to the home screen, and here I will use dispatch and going to use this clear message. Let me import this. Okay, and save it. Once it is saved, let's reload the app because we are already logged in. And now if I say Coco, remove test task 3, removed successfully. Okay, test title, remove. Wow, that's great. Now we are able to remove our task successfully, and also we can add ease loading to this if we want. Is loading. It's a prop. Let's go to tasks and let's import it. So let's try to add loading equals to is loading and save this. Let's try now using this. Okay, that is very quick, so we don't know if it is working or not. Let's try to add few more. Okay, task added. Let's add few more. A very important thing is to like the video if you're not already. Okay, so let's go back. So here we have all our new tasks added. Okay, so now let's click here. Cool. So it is working smoothly, right? Okay, guys. So we created few tasks using Himanshu user. Now I want to test it in a fresh user. Okay, so let's register a new user. Let's name it Jerry and I'll give it a password. Sign up. We are logged in, and now you can see there are no tasks added by Jerry. So I will go back to the task list and try to add a task. Okay. Okay. So let's see. So both the tasks are added. Okay. And also, if we want, we can remove something. Let's add some gibberish, and I click here. Here we have Jerry user. Okay. And if I go back, we have this. And if we want, we can click and remove the task. Okay. So let's log out and let's try to log in with Himanshu again. And you can see now we have the task for Himanshu, okay, which are created by Himanshu, right? So we are successfully able to fetch the task of particular user, remove the task of particular users. Okay, so that's great. Now let's go back to our task list and see if we have any task which is remaining for the home screen. Okay, so we created the cloud function to fetch user task, successfully done. Create task list and show the task users. And also we have added a functionality to remove the task. Right? Okay, guys, I think we will stop here. And in section 4, we are going to create a profile screen. We will learn how to allow user to change their current password. Okay, so that's for the next video. I hope you learned a lot from this video, and if you do, please don't forget to comment, like this video, and subscribe to get more such videos. Okay, thank you so much for watching. See you in section 4.